shooting matchstick from BB guns at locusts. Another great moment in the life of this child was the gift of a real BB gun. I loved the gun, and it loosed all my hunting instincts. The sparrows were terrorized in the whole neighborhood. Across the street at the old Methodist church, the overhanging ledges on the tall 3- or 4-story building made a great nesting place for the resident pigeons. This was a great hunting ground as the pigeons were perceived as pests and were open season. However, the antique stained glass windows were the problem. The thrill of the live game and the risk of the stained glass windows made pigeon hunting a real challenge. Much of the time, though, was spent out of ammunition. I think after looking back that this was the way that my mom kept my hunting under control. There was not a lot of money for unlimited ammunition, so maybe this was another disciplinary learning time. I, however, learned a trick to extend my hunting, even when out BBs. The BB gun shoots air, and when a wooden matchstick is slid down the barrel, it is an effective missile for distances of up to 20 feet. The game? Locusts. They sit in the trees in the summertime and scream at the top of their lungs, sitting just 10 to 15 feet from the ground, clinging to the underside of leaves and limbs. When you manage to stalk within air gun range and make a successful shot, the wooden matchstick spears the large insect, as with a wooden arrow. The great thing about hunting insects is that there is no blood, no sense of death or loss when successful. I remember that when I did manage to bring down one of the large pigeons from the church roof, the sickening feeling as I approached the beautiful wounded bird. This is still true of my attitude today. I am very competitive, have a strong hunting and exploring instinct. I do not like killing animals though. Nightmares and sleepwalking. I had a problem with sleepwalking. This is what I was always told, for I do not remember any of those episodes. When I was caught out of bed, trying to tour the house or neighborhood, my parents returned me to bed, and I never remembered a thing. Walking out the front door or crawling out the screen window or sleeping under the bed or sleeping in the closet or wetting down the corner of the bathroom and wetting down the closet, these were all part of my nighttime tours. Maybe sleepwalking was a way to get away from those terrible nightmares. Probably all kids have nightmares. I'm sure psychologists have all the answers to why kids wake up in real states of raw terror. I remember the many nights waking up to my own screams and the instant comfort and assurance that there was nothing to be afraid of. There were 2 of those nightmare dreams that I remember even now. They were of the recurring type, and after a while the terror was familiar, and I knew that it was really just a dream. As I walked through the front yard, there was a deep dark hole near the front sidewalk. I always seemed to fall into the hole, and as I fell toward the bottom, something waiting there for me would come into view. I think it was a wolf, but as I had learned that this was just a dream, as I neared the bottom, I knew all I had to do was wake up to save myself. I think that in the years that have passed I have heard variations of this dream from many people, so I feel that there was no particular significance to the wolf hole. The other recurring dream was, however, harder to describe and was less like a dream. As I lay in the bed, the dark would seem to grow. There would seem to be tiny light specks that would come toward me and then shoot past. It was a little like the Star Trek introduction as the Enterprise is shooting into space. Instead of being exhilarating though, it was as if I was being swallowed up by nothingness. It was more as if I was shrinking away into non-existence or death. I have actually had this feeling upon occasion in later life. It may be that this is not a dream, but a state of mind that comes over you as you lay still in the dark. Fear of death? Childhood dogs. I had many dogs as a kid. Fences were not big in a small town, and dogs were free to roam. My dogs, unfortunately, liked to chase cars. The only one that I had long enough to remember was Poochie. He was a part collie of semi-large stature and loving disposition. Mostly white with medium long fur and a couple of brown spots. Like the others though, he would follow me to school, then wander his way home to pass the day. One day he didn't make it back across the highway. As I returned from school that afternoon, I saw him lying in the gutter, a mass of blood and dirt on his white fur. I ran home crying to tell Mom that my Poochie had been run over and killed. She got in the car and returned to the highway to take care of the body. He was gone. I really loved him, so did Mom, but we were not surprised. Dad had already backed over him once while he slept under the car in the gravel driveway. He had only survived this long because he seemed to be able to survive being hit or run over by cars. A day went by, maybe 2, when we heard something strange coming from behind the great sticky shrub that covered half the front of the house. I was elected to crawl behind the sticking barrier to find the source of the stirrings and noises. To my amazement, there lay Poochie, in a nest of dirt, licking his wounds, healing himself the way nature intended. We brought water and food each day, half expecting him to be dead each morning. For several days he would not eat, just drink. Finally, he emerged, a little crippled, but alive and loving as ever. In those days, we never bought a bag of commercial dog food, and there was no thought of taking him to a veterinarian. Seems cruel now, but it was just normal back then. Well, as you might expect, chasing cars was still his demise. I don't recollect the specifics, but he did not pass from old age. Screen windows and summer night sounds. We had no air conditioning till I was about 14. We were not underprivileged, it was just a relatively new thing. My dad was working for Westinghouse and he brought home a window unit to install in his and Mom's bedroom. A little of the cool air would blow down the long hall and into my room when their bedroom door was open. Living in a house with the doors and windows closed and the hum of an air conditioner seals off the outside world. It created an isolation that we now take for granted. Only when you go out camping and find you have trouble sleeping because of the night noises do you appreciate the difference. Back in 1946 BAC, before air conditioning, you could lay in bed on a summer night and hear all kinds of things. The locusts screeching, the tree frogs chirping, the crickets clicking, the neighbors talking, the leaves rustling in the trees, the tree limb rubbing on the house gutters. We were living closer to nature then. You sweated when it was hot, you wore lots of clothes when it was cold.